Hi boys and girls. After a short break of only 9 months, here's part 2 of the Endless Answers video series. And I want to apologize to the people whose questions I'm about to answer for making them wait so long, and I also want to promise everybody that I will think long and hard before I do another Ask Me Questions video, because obviously I get sick of listening to myself talk long before I finish answering all the questions. Also, one of the questions is about my musical taste, so I'm just going to let my iTunes play on shuffle in the background, which hopefully will not be too insanely distracting, and I'm confident that I can talk over the music. ozjthomas asks, I like your Alan Watts series. What other writers do you like, especially in regards to philosophical mystics such as Watts, Merton, Wilson? There's a second question as well. I don't really have a lot of other philosophical or spiritual authors that I read. In fact, there are none, come to think of it. I have read essentially no other philosophical spiritual authors, because I wasn't looking for philosophical answers or spiritual fulfillment or anything like that when I happened upon Watts. I thought of myself as a fairly level-headed materialist atheist when I came upon Watts, and Watts made me see how spirituality is an aspect of what we tend to think of as flat, unspiritual reality. When I read the Watts that I first read, I realized that I felt that I had gotten, and I still feel that I had gotten the central core message of religion, divorced from all of its cultural baggage and a supernatural mumbo jumbo. And so I had no urge to read up on it from other authors or get it even more perfectly expressed by someone else. And also I tend to just kind of proceed through different authors by happenstance, so unless someone just happens to catch my interest at a particular moment, I'm not going to go looking for more spirituality or more this or more that. Anyway, so sorry about that. Second half of your question is also, what is your dream project movie? Thanks. Well, I am 50, and my career as a filmmaker is it's kind of laughable to call it a career. And I'm actually very late now coming to really sort of enjoy what I'm doing, but I'm sort of past the point of having a big dream project. I tend to go from I tend to concentrate on what I think I can do right now, and what I think I can do right now is low-budget horror, and we'll just go from there and see where I end up. This is not a good song to have behind me while I'm talking. No, and I don't want to hear that. And I don't want to hear pictures at an exhibition, and I don't want to hear The Search from Planet of the Apes. I don't want to hear The Supreme Beings of Leisure. Bob Marley and the Wailers? I didn't even know I had any Bob Marley and the Wailers. Oh, it's from the In the Name of the Father soundtrack, and I don't even know how I got that on my iTunes. Ah, some Bowie. Anyway, Rorschach 567 asks, I'm reading a lot of Alan Watts. I'm thinking of starting the Wisdom of Insecurity next. Have you read that one? What did you think? Well, since it's been 9 months, you've either read it or you haven't. Yes, I actually did a video about the Wisdom of Insecurity, which is called, I believe, Exploring the Amazon with Alan Watts. And I think that the Wisdom of Insecurity is one of the best Alan Watts books for people who consider themselves atheists to read. So yeah, that's a good choice. Do you consider Zen a philosophy, a religion, or something else? If it is not a religion, what separates it from Buddhism, Taoism, and other religions it is associated with or practiced alongside? I don't really know. Pretty much all that I know about Zen I got from samurai movies and Alan Watts. And one of the insights that I got out of Alan Watts is that that there is no religious or spiritual or philosophical tradition that has a monopoly on the truth. And so I really kind of lost any interest I might have had in pursuing specific philosophical traditions. I like to consider these essential questions in a sort of a culturally non-specific way as much as I can. And I sort of think that a person from the West who gets too heavily into a lot of these non-Western religions is just kind of indulging in religious transvestism, well, not religious, cultural transvestism. You're putting on the accoutrements of another culture because of what that foreignness says to you. But that's not fair to a lot of Zen practitioners, I'm sure, and I really shouldn't talk about it because I don't really know that much. But I favor one of the things that I really like about Zen, as it's been explained to me by Alan Watts, is one of the things I really like about Zen is the idea that you just get enlightenment, that it comes in an instant, and that the amount of work that you put into gaining enlightenment has no real bearing on the enlightenment itself. That in a way the search for enlightenment is in itself an impediment to enlightenment. I should say, I've said this in other videos, but even I can't go back and look through my old ones to figure out which one I said it in. But you know, I feel like I attained enlightenment 30-ish years ago when I read my first Alan Watts, and I realized that that what people are talking about with enlightenment is the thing that is behind everybody's sense of the value of being alive, and that we've all had it at some point, whether or not we recognize it, whether or not we can recognize it now, that the essential connection to the absolute is inherent in being conscious. I mean, that I on some level, I think that is the beginning of consciousness, is the consciousness of this absolute thing. And we could talk a lot about it, but this is supposed to be me getting through a lot of questions here. But I attain enlightenment. I'm an enlightened being. And one of the things that I recognized, thanks to Alan Watts and thanks to my own... here's the thing about Alan Watts. He just pointed out things that made sense to me, rather than me simply trying to accept something that he said for some side reason and accept it as dogma without understanding it. I understood this, and that the ultimate truth, the ultimate awareness changes nothing. It is simply the awareness of what is the thing, the thing that wasn't changed, that you just simply weren't aware of. It isn't even the awareness. It changes nothing. You can still continue. You can continue to be a loser. You can continue to be unhappy. You can, what have you. It's not. It's not about attaining happiness or getting points over somebody else, or an intellectual construction. Very hard to talk about. In fact, it's essentially it's impossible to encapsulate in words. You can only literally talk about it, talk all around it, sort of define the indefinable by sort of creating a shape of words around it. Back then, when I was in college and I read Watson and got this moment where I said, oh geez, without all the mumbo jumbo, I'm enlightened. Oh my God, I'm enlightened. I thought about having a t-shirt made up that said, I attained enlightenment and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. That was a popular t-shirt formulation when I was in college. And it seemed to be the basic truth, which is that enlightenment changes nothing. Which doesn't mean it's the only thing of value, and its value permeates everything else. And once you recognize that, then you've got something, and it's what you always had. Even though these kind of concepts can't really be expressed in words, I wish I expressed them in words better than I do. And Alan Watts expresses it a lot better than me. Go read a bunch of Alan Watts.